Gottlieb's tastes good like a beer should.
You said it. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
Try a frosty cold glass of Bavarian right away.
What's that you say? No boulder dash or baloney here.
Cheers, everyone, and welcome to the Unfiltered Gentleman. And now, with a higher BAC than your ABV, Greg, Scott, and Dan.
Hey, everybody, welcome into the Unfiltered Gentleman. Greg here today. We've got a break from the normal show with an awesome interview from the Midwest. Coming to us from across the country is Mike Marr, owner and brewmeister over at Buffalo Creek Brewing in Long Grove, Illinois. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Very excited to have you on the show today. A little backstory, I was contacted by one of your guys asking if we'd like to talk to you on the show and have you on the show. And being from the West Coast, I hadn't heard of Buffalo Creek before, so I'm really looking forward to trying something new today. We're over here in Southern California. You guys are outside of Chicago in that area, right?
Yeah, we're about 35 miles north of Chicago.
Okay.
Kind of in between the Chicago-Milwaukee area there.
Some good beer coming out of that area, too. Very excited to try something new. You guys were nice enough to send over a couple samples. We'll be trying those on the show and talking about those. We'll be talking about you, talking about your history. And just for everyone listening, if you're in that area, you can find them at 360 Historical Lane, and that's in Long Grove, Illinois. They're on the socials at Buffalo Creek Brewing, of course, at buffalocreekbrewing.com. Mike, if you don't mind, let's dip in with history on you as a beer drinker. When did you get into craft beer?
Well, I grew up in upstate New York, about 45 miles from the Canadian border, and you had the local choice of Miller, which was made there, or Molson or Labatt's, and back in the day they had OV splits. So,
okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of Old Vienna, but they were a small brewery up in Canada. They'd sell the little 8-ounce bottles, and it was great if you wanted to do a case race with another person. But yeah, I kind of grew up drinking Molson Golden, which I live just north of Chicago now, and I will tell you, I won't drink Molson Golden around here. It is not the same beer that you get back home, and it's a little skunky. It's the flavor's off. You drink it back home, it's fresh. You can definitely tell that they shouldn't be using green bottles. You know, it's like Corona and the other ones that they store in clear or green bottles. You know, even Heineken, if you drink Heineken draft versus Heineken in a bottle, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, completely different beer.
And the nice thing about Molson Golden upstate New York is you're always getting it fresh. So it's like I said, it's quite an experience. And, you know, just from doing that, you know, I started kind of became a beer snob in my, I would say, 18 to 21 year age. I was able to drink legally for a whole 45 days before New York State changed the drinking license from 18 to 21. Yeah, they didn't grandfather us in.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was. You know, the thing is, where I grew up, you didn't have a lot of choices. And so I'd always go down to Syracuse and try to find, you know, different beers and try different things. And we had a couple breweries there. There was one, Empire Brewing. I think they recently just went out of business, but they were there during my college years and afterwards. And great little brewery, made fresh beer, made different things all the time. And it's what inspired me to, you know, go out and seek different beers. When I went to college, there was a place called Sherlock Holmes, and you'd go down there and they had beers from around the world. During my years at college, I tried to drink them all, but I couldn't make it through the list.
Challenge accepted.
Yes. After, you know, going through and drinking lots of different styles of beer, I really fell towards the German and Belgian style beers. And so when I started homebrewing, those were the ones that I first wanted to make. And I make other beers as well, but these days, the German and Belgian ones are the ones that we're known for, and it's what people come here to drink.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's even in your title. You're the brewmeister, not the brewmaster. So I think right off the bat, we know you're into some German-style beers.
Although I get criticized by my German friends who say, if you're going to do it, don't do half American, half German. You're a brewmeister or a brewmaster.
They're calling you out.
They did.
That's funny. And that must have been hard. I mean, so I did a little quick Googling while you were talking, and that law changed back in the 80s.
Yep.
Around then, it must not have been easy to get what we would consider craft beer now.
No. Most of what we considered craft beer back then were the imports from other countries.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'd stick to the German and Belgian style beers because no one's going to make a Flemish Red back then. No one's going to make the Pilsners that we're used to here in America. Mostly back then it was all the domestics. Now there's an American Pilsner, there's a Czech Pilsner, there's a German Pilsner. Actually, our Pilsner here, we kind of varied a little bit and decided to do a Czech Pilsner because we wanted to be a little different.
Yeah, and there's one thing that craft beer has really taught beer drinkers, which is Pilsners and lagers are actually really good.
They are. In fact, they are number 1 and 2 selling beers. The number 1 selling beer is the one that we sent you, which is our German Kolsch. Okay. And then the number 2 selling beer here is our 360 Pils, which is Czech Pilsners are traditionally named after a location they're made, and we're at 360 Historical Lane.
Oh, I like that. That's really cool. Well, you brought it up, the marvelous Kolsch. Should we crack it open?
Let's do it. Yeah, that was a fresh batch that was just made, canned this week. So if you look at the date on the bottom, it's about as fresh as it gets.
Oh, yeah. Birthed on 8/04, and we record this on 8/08.
Yep.
Nice and fresh.
So the Marvelous is a beer that a friend of mine actually inspired me to make. So when I first started homebrewing, I started making stouts and things of that nature, things you can kind of cover up the taste.
Right.
Made a few IPAs and American Pale Ales. And he's like, you need to make a really good Kolsch. And, I'd always have parties at the house and people come over and they drink all the beer. I went from bottling the homebrew to kegging within a matter of months of starting up.
Best decision I ever made.
Oh my God. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
Cleaning one keg versus, 50 bottles.
Oh, it's the worst.
But so I kind of tinkered around with the Kolsch and I looked up a lot of different Kolsch recipes, read Michael Jackson's book about, all the different beers from around the world. I have his whole collection. Do you know who Michael Jackson is?
No, I don't.
He was a beer aficionado, kind of doing what all the beer bloggers are doing now, except for he was doing this back in the 70s and 80s. He would write these books about his experiences and traveling and different beers and really, describe the origins of the beer and what they were going for, give commercial examples. Kind of like if you look up the BJCP, if you look at their beer categories, mm-hmm. I think they might have taken some of the stuff from him.
The original creator.
So the German Kolsch that we did, it's an ale that tastes like a lager. It's a kind of a tricky beer to make. Mm-hmm. We see lots of examples, especially during the summertime. We make ours year round. Like I said, it is our number 1 beer, and we actually brew it every 2 weeks.
Well, bless you for making this year round. There are not enough Kolsch's in my life. It's my most recent homebrew. It's what I have on tap right now. I wish every brewery would make a good Kolsch. And this is good. This is light. It's clean, a little cloudy, lower on a carbonation than you'd get out of like your normal Pilsner, but very crushable and easy to drink on a hot day.
So we took the standard Kolsch idea and added a little bit of wheat to it. Mm-hmm. And so when you add that wheat to it, it gives it a little bit of a sweet flavor.
Yeah.
And that's what makes so many people around here love it.
Yeah, this could go down real fast and real dangerously.
That's the idea. We're in the business to sell liquid.
What are we at? We have 5.1%. Yeah, this is crushable. Like I said, great hot summer day beer. And I am so glad you guys do this year round. More Kolsch's, please. It's one of my favorite styles.
Absolutely. We have a liquor store that's probably about 5-6 miles from here, sells our beer. And, they're ordering 2-3 cases of this every week from us. And he's always telling me, he's like, when I first met you and you told me you wanted to sell Kolsch here, he goes, nah, that's a summertime beer. And I'm like, well, that's, we have Goose Island here in town and they have their summertime Kolsch. Mm. And so everyone thinks that because of them, it's just a summertime beer, but it is a beer. If you go to Cologne, Germany, you drink it year round.
Oh, sure. I imagine. Yeah. It's so good. This got brought up because you're talking about homebrewing. How did your love of beer kind of make its way into homebrewing? Around when did you start homebrewing?
I started homebrewing about 18 years ago.
Okay.
And so this was before it was, trendy to do so. And it was hard to find ingredients. It was hard to find equipment. And a lot of what I have from my homebrew kit, a lot of it I Frankenstein together.
Oh, sure.
You sit there and you figure out, okay, well, I can weld this or take it over to someone and have them weld it. If you want a wort chiller, you go out and you buy 50 feet of copper coil and you start building it yourself.
Using a turkey fryer?
You got it. These days I got a Megapot, but the Megapot does a great job. I actually still brew in it. I brewed in it yesterday. We do make a small batch every month, and we do 10-gallon batches where we can try new things, new flavors. release it into the tap room and see what people think.
That's fun.
It's a lot of fun. Some of our stuff that we've created over the past year, we've done a hibiscus cream ale. We did a chocolate milk stout that we did it. We released it on a Tuesday in February, thinking that, this will last at, the end of the week.
Right.
People came in that night. They loved it so much they drank it all.
Oh, geez.
10 gallons was gone. And it was one of the ones that we had a request for, hey, can you make a big batch of this? Well, here we are a year and a half later, and we brew that one every 3 months.
Nice.
Make a 15-barrel batch.
Well, and I was creeping around your website, not just chocolate, but do you have a chocolate bacon stout right now? We
have a chocolate bacon stout. I will say, though, the chocolate milk stout has cannibalized the sales of the chocolate bacon.
Okay.
Chocolate bacon, it's weird. It's funky. I had a friend. His name was Cashier Xerxes. That's why the beer's named Xerxes. Mm. He challenged me to make a chocolate bacon beer. He's like, you're always trying to make new things. He goes, I need chocolate and bacon. So there's no chocolate or bacon in the beer. It's all done with the malts.
Okay.
It smells like chocolate. It smells like bacon. As you drink it, you actually think that you're drinking something with chocolate and bacon in it.
What is everyone's reaction when they try it?
Some people are like, it's interesting. If you don't like smoked beers, then I would recommend that you not try it.
Sure.
But those who like a good Rausch beer, we have just enough smoke in there to let you know that it's there. A lot of people think that it's a great breakfast beer because you got the chocolate, you got the bacon, and they'll come in, that's the first beer they order on Saturday mornings when they come in.
A nice little breakfast beer.
You got it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we have one customer. He comes in. He starts his Saturday morning every week with a Xerxes, and then he follows it up with a 360 Pils.
Starting off the weekend right.
He knows how to do it right.
So you said you have that 10-gallon former homebrew set in the brewery. What's your normal setup?
So we have a 15-barrel brew house.
Okay.
And most times we're doing 15-barrel batches. A lot of times we'll end up double batching. Mm-hmm. We do have 4 30-barrel fermenters.
Okay.
We'll do one batch in there, let it rest overnight, and then do a second batch the next day.
So going back to homebrew a little bit, before you got into this as a career, what was your day job?
So I owned a software company, and I've owned 2 of those in my life. I sold both. I used to work in the finance industry, and one of the nice things was my job was to go out and meet with different clients and actually talk to them about going onto our data aggregation platform. Mm-hmm. And it was all in the retirement space, so real sexy stuff there. Right. You can't really talk about data aggregation. It's just one of those things like, you just got to get them to do it.
Yeah.
And what I would do is, instead of taking them out to steakhouses and things of that nature, I go out and meet with these vendors, clients, always take them to a brewery.
Sure.
In the course of probably 5 years, I visited hundreds of breweries. I'd be out traveling Monday through Friday, and I'd hit at least 3 or 4 every week.
Nice.
And every time I went to a new town, kind of figure out what's out there. Back in the day, Yelp was really good, and they'd help me find any microbreweries, show me the hours. And next thing you know, I'd taken the clients there. I start talking to the owners of the place or someone that has some knowledge. And I'd be, 5 minutes later going in the back with the owners and taking the crew with me, showing them how beer is actually made. At that point, landed every single client.
Yeah, I bet. That's always a fun night. One thing I keep seeing on your website, of course, I Googled Buffalo Creek before the interview. One thing I keep saying everywhere is that it's a destination brewery. What does that mean?
The building itself, when we were looking for a place, we had a couple different locations that we were seeking out. I actually came here in downtown Long Grove, and it's a historic town. It's been here since the 1800s. Many of the buildings, some of the buildings that are here are some of those old Sears catalog buildings.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of it's got a really unique feel to it. It's got a 1-lane covered bridge that was destroyed and will be back actually in about a week.
Oh, how fun.
But the bridge itself is, it dates back to 1906. There's only 3 left in the state. But it's like I said, it's an old historic covered bridge. You feel like you're in New England. It's got this really nice charm, lots of little shops. You can buy merchandise, you can buy candies. We have Long Grove Confectionery who's here. They sell handmade chocolates. The restaurant scene here is pretty vibrant. And we actually have the oldest restaurant in the state, or the oldest continually operating tavern in the state.
Fun.
Down the street from us. So when we came, the town was part of the selling feature for us to actually come here. The other thing was we found a art gallery and studio that was built in the early 90s. and the building was being converted from a art gallery and studio to an art gallery and studio with a restaurant. The former owner, he ran out of money, was foreclosed on, and the building sat here in a raw state for about 10 years.
Wow.
No business, unless you're going to spend a lot of money, was able to come in. And to give you an idea of the size of this place, the building itself is 17,000 square feet.
Holy crap.
The brew house itself looks like a cathedral. It's a eight-sided room with beautiful wood ceiling with these huge arches that you like see in a church coming up to the peak. And that used to be the gallery. So we've turned the gallery into a place where we can brew beer. The bottom level, we've actually used that as our packaging. And then on the first floor, we have a tap room with a beer garden out back. We have lawns that right now we have socially distanced seating for about 162 people outside.
That's pretty good.
Although we have been getting crowds in here of about 250 on a Friday and Saturday night. Fortunately, there's enough room where everyone can kind of space out and really be away from everyone.
Yeah.
We've put picnic tables in the woods. So when you come here, when we say it's Lake County's only destination brewery, we're not in a warehouse. We're not in a strip mall. We've taken this really unique building and turned it into a fantastic German beer garden, tap room. Everything is Bavarian themed. So we try to go for no stainless steel. Everything is copper. All the walls are cedar. When you walk in, you can actually still smell the cedar from when we put everything, or when we installed everything.
Yeah.
Looks fantastic. Smells fantastic. And when you look out the backyard, we have these huge spruce and pine trees that are out there. And like today, we got a couple clouds going by. If you're down in the lower level looking up, you feel like you're in Colorado.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really just an all-around fantastic experience when people come here. That's what we try to make for every customer that comes in.
Yes, you really put a lot of thought and planning into what it's going to look like, not just turning out some beer.
Exactly. Yeah, because a lot of people can make beer, but you got to be able to sell the beer. You got to have the whole experience. Mm-hmm. And what many brewers don't realize is when they start a brewery that it's actually multiple occupations in one.
Sure.
I mean, running a tap room is one thing, running distribution's another, the actual production and making the beer is another. So if you actually look at all these, it's about 3 or 4 different jobs depending on how you do things.
Oh, I can imagine. Speaking of making the beer, we have another one. We have a strawberry blonde that you sent over. And I have to admit, a little worried about this one.
Well, I want you to be worried, and then I want to know what your opinion is when you drink it. So if you look on there, you'll see a picture of our historic bridge behind the red-headed stepchild himself.
Oh, yeah.
And we've taken the iconic logo that was up there and replaced it with a strawberry.
I see that.
So we get to have a little bit of fun with
Nice.
with what we do here.
All right.
So this is a traditional German blonde. And what we do is after about a week of fermentation, we get into secondary, we'll add a mountain of strawberries to it and ferment them out.
Okay.
That way you get a beer that still tastes like a beer, but has an essence of strawberry to it.
Does adding fruit in there at that point, does that add any alcohol to it?
It actually does. When we measure it out, it ends up kicking the alcohol to about an extra 1 to 1.1%.
Wow. Surprising amount, actually.
It's a lot of strawberries.
Yeah, I bet. All right. So on the nose, very strawberry smelling, and it smells like real fruit. Doesn't smell like a Ballast Point beer, if you will.
We don't like cough medicine.
No, thank God. It smells really good. I'm diving in.
So I have lots of friends that tell me don't fruit the beer. But
right.
Like I said, when we try to do it, we want to make sure that it still tastes like a beer.
And you've definitely accomplished that. It tastes like a beer, and it's not like, ooh, lots of strawberries. It's a beer, and it's got a little side of strawberry on it.
Yep. And what inspired this beer was way back in the day. Do you remember Pete's Wicked Ale?
Yeah.
They used to do a strawberry beer.
Mm-hmm. Pete's
Wicked Strawberry, I think. I wanted something that was reminiscent of that.
I don't think I ever had their. I know Pete's Wicked Ale. I don't think I ever had their strawberry. This is, I have to admit, this is surprisingly good. I was very worried about it. Fruited beers, especially not sour fruited beers, can go in many different directions. And this is refreshing. It's crisp. It's really crisp, actually. Hides that, was it 6.1? Hides that 6.1 pretty well. This is an easy drinker.
It's an easy drinker. So usually every year we make one batch. It's a 15-barrel batch. And we usually sell maybe about 10 kegs outside of here. And then the rest is all sold just draft here. Well, this year, because of COVID, we decided to can it. Long Grove is known for its festivals. We have a craft beer fest, a chocolate fest, a strawberry fest, an apple fest.
Nice.
An Irish days, vintage days, you name it. If there's a reason to open a beer, we have a festival. And so we usually release this about the week before Strawberry Fest, and it goes till August. And this year, and I'm not quite sure what happened, but it was the first batch was gone in 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And the third beer we're going to drink, so we actually used the same yeast. We harvested it, and we made the North Star, which is what you're going to drink next.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we got done making the North Star, we harvested the yeast and made another batch of the Red-Headed Stepchild.
Okay.
We released it last Thursday. When you do a 15-barrel batch, you're getting about 28 to 30 kegs out of it.
Okay.
We're down to 2 kegs now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this was canned on 7/30. Nice and fresh.
Yep.
I got to give it to you. Surprisingly good. As I was prepping for the interview, I thought, I hope I don't have to say it's great and it's not great. But you killed it on this one.
Thank you. I tell people we try not to make crap.
It's a good business plan.
Yeah.
You kind of brought it up a little bit, COVID changing the way you guys are operating. I imagine not only as a brewery, because we've seen how COVID's affecting brewery, but as a destination brewery where a lot of your business is you having a great spot to come hang out at and great beer. How has COVID impacted all that?
We were shut down for 11 weeks other than curbside.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it really tough, but it gave us an opportunity to kind of sit down, reevaluate. Okay, so when we reopen, what are people going to want? What are they going to want to do? And as we were kind of looking at the facility, we're like, okay, we got some PPP money, and instead of just paying people to sit around, I'm like, no, we're going to actually do something and do it really cool. So we redid our backyard, and we took a bunch of pallets that we had, put in a boardwalk, redid the lawn, put in all this new lighting, also put in a kind of like a stone area that it was an area of the lawn that used to always get really muddy, and we kind of cleaned that up and made it look really nice.
Nice. And
in doing so, our backyard now, it gets tons of traffic every weekend, and even Monday through Thursday, we have seen numbers of double or triple what we used to do.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of pent-up demand. Our nervous part right now is what do we do come the end of October? Because nobody wants to be inside. And we've actually even changed our point of sale. We used to be bar service only. Now our servers actually go out and they will run beers back and forth. Things like that have really changed our business model and the way that we're operating. The other is our distribution.
Mm-hmm.
Without the restaurants right now, there's really not a lot of draft accounts. So we've been doing a lot more canning and packaging in that way.
Yeah.
So much so that we've had a problem trying to find cans.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, so our normal manufacturer has not had cans for over 2 months.
Wow.
So we've gone through some other companies. We are paying a higher price point per can, and if you think about it, we're paying about an extra 3 cents per can. That makes it roughly another 72 cents of added cost per case for every beer we sell.
And with a couple pallets of cans, that really adds up.
It adds up very quickly. So we haven't changed our prices yet. We're hoping that things are kind of, subside and go back to normal.
Yeah.
But if they don't, we might have to up our price on the cans.
And I imagine people understand that for the most part.
I think they do. They know that we're over here. They know that we're working hard. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not here at the brewery. Technically this was supposed to be my retirement job. This is a retirement job where I now work 12 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right. Well, and it sounds like you guys have pivoted very well. Out here, at least in California, not at just breweries, restaurants, basically anybody who's done a good job of setting up a nice and distance outdoor space seems to be crowded almost every night, and especially on the weekends.
Yep.
And it seems like that's the way to go, and it's going to be the way to go for a while until they get things figured out. So. And then cans. I keep preaching to everybody, please release cans. We want to support you. We want to buy your beer and help you stay afloat. Please package it so we can help do that. It sounds like you guys are doing that as well.
Yeah, we're beer. Like I said, Red-Headed Stepchild. We never did that in cans before. We created a label. We're still debating on our Oktoberfest. It comes out in a couple weeks, and if we're going to do labels, I got to pull the trigger on that on Monday.
Okay.
We've had several package stores that'll tell us, they're like, Mike, if you make cans, we're buying it. We'll buy everything you got.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We've been getting a name for ourselves, which is 3 years. And this is the other thing. We've been really crowded this year, And I'm wondering if it's because we've kind of taken a multi-stage approach that during the downtime, there weren't a lot of companies out there advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And we really used our social media and hit things hard to make sure that we were at the forefront out there. And when there's a lot less noise, people are more often to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think doing that in combination with going out there and, kind of restructuring everything and getting the word out that we're open for business. Usually the village doesn't allow us to put big signs up out front, and the mayor's like, Mike, whatever you got to do to stay in business, keep doing it.
Yeah, different times.
Yep. And so there's a little bit of leeway with some of the things that we normally wouldn't be allowed to do. And even the Illinois Liquor Commissioner, they allow us to do home delivery on beer. And while we haven't taken that up yet, it is something that we have considered.
Yeah, they started letting that happen in California after everything got shut down. And it's been one of the few bright points of the entire COVID situation is having brewery drops on your front door. It's there's been a lot of drops over at this front door, that's for sure.
See, that's a nice thing. And I keep wanting to do it, but then you got to think about the safety of, where are you sending someone?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of logistics to it.
Yeah. You talked about doing a lot of traveling before you were a brewmeister and taking clients to breweries and all that sort of thing. Comparing the Chicago area, I know you're outside, but the Chicago area to different beer cities like San Diego and Denver and that sort of thing, what makes that area different?
It's an interesting question because when I travel and I go to see different breweries, I used to sit there and keep notes about every place that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is in Chicago, I never really took the notes because I'm like, I can always go back. And I should have taken notes just because, I never realized that once I opened this place that I would be consumed by being here 7 days a week.
Right.
It is a real treat for me. I recently just did a trip around Lake Michigan to look at all the lighthouses and kind of take the family and take a few days and go out and do some things. And I did go and I hit every brewery I could just to get a different experience and see what was out there.
Sure.
So when it comes to Chicago, it's kind of weird because it's almost like too much. A lot of the breweries that are out there, the brewers are friends of mine.
Oh, yeah.
So when I go there, it's like I'm going to their house to drink.
Right. You don't get the normal customer experience.
Right. And that's one of the things about being in the industry is you all of a sudden your whole attitude changes because your experience is completely different.
Sure.
But there's several breweries. I mean, I think we have before COVID, I think we had 185 breweries in Chicagoland.
Nice.
If I remember right, we were now touted as the densest brewery population in the world.
Oh, really? More than San Diego?
More than San Diego.
Nice. That's a nice little title to hold.
Yep. Now, that being said, I still love going to San Diego and drinking. I have friends that live in Orange County, and I'll go out and visit them, and we'll go down to San Diego for a couple of days just to, go hit breweries and see what's going on.
I tell you, there's nothing I like better than going to San Diego for the weekend, hitting a couple breweries, hanging out on the beaches. It's my favorite town to be in, and the beer doesn't make that such a bad thing.
Not at all. And there's your Ballast Point there. Are they still open down there?
As far as I know, they got bought out almost a year ago, and as far as I know, they're still going.
Yeah, my understanding is they were sold to Constellation.
Right.
And then Constellation sold them to one of my buddies here, Brendan Waters. He owns Kings and Convicts.
Yeah. Oh, you know him.
He comes over here and drinks all the time.
How funny.
He's always like, Mike, you built the place that I want.
Well, now he's got the astronomical task of trying to get Ballast Point righted again.
He does. And I applaud him. I praise him. Anything I can do to help him, I'm hoping that he rights that ship.
I hope so too. They were kind of one of the originals until they sold out, and then things went downhill. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
I think Constellation just wanted them for the name and nothing more.
Oh, that's totally what it was. But I'm not mad at the original owners for selling that place for $1 billion. I'd do the same thing too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Those guys, they actually doubled down because then they started a distillery and sold that.
They sold that to, I think, Budweiser.
Yeah.
They're making cash over there. All right, so in my Googling and stalking the brewery online, something came up about your high-tech water filtration. As a home brewer, I know that my house water is crappy, so I go buy water from the store, and I know it's important to have good water. Talk about how important the water is when you're brewing, and what is your high-tech water filtration system?
Okay, can I back up and tell you about a beer that is actually named after our water here?
Absolutely.
So we have a beer called 42K. It's a Belgian strong ale. Comes in at about 10.5% alcohol.
Whew.
We use 2 different yeast strains, so every batch might vary in taste a little bit, but
Nice.
it's pretty consistent. They're consistently good. But the village actually charged me $42,000 for the water connection fee.
Oh, wow.
Now that was just to hook up to the water, or to have the rights to hook up to the water. Now the one thing that we did is we kind of forced the issue because downtown Long Grove did not have city water, and since being here and being here for 3.5 years, every business in downtown now is hooked up to the city water.
Okay.
So everyone has good water, and there's no more egg water. That being said, when I got all done, I ended up spending almost $75,000 on having water put into the building.
Wow.
So there's $42,000 for the connection fee, all the plumbing and all the work to actually bring the water inside.
Sure.
And then I spent $20,000 on a reverse osmosis system.
Oh, yeah, you have to.
And people have always been like, well, you could get a smaller one that doesn't go as fast. And I'm like, yeah, well, we kind of got the need for speed. And like, but you could store it in another tank. And I'm like, yeah, we could do that. And then it's another piece of equipment that I have to maintain, and it's going to take up space.
Right.
Our RO system, it makes 8 gallons of water a minute. And you may think it's fast or not fast, depending on if you're in the industry or not. But at 8 gallons a minute, that allows us to make 20,000 gallons a day. We only turn the RO system on when we're making water for the beer.
Okay.
We started making a hard seltzer, and we decided if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And so we use our pure RO water for the hard seltzer. We call it Black Hoof.
Okay.
Kind of make fun of White Claw.
I like that.
Yeah, we're Buffaloes over here, so
Right.
we can do the Black Hoof. We released a boysenberry version of it back in October, and we've been making 20 gallons a week, and we release it every Friday, and it's usually gone by Saturday.
Wow.
With the demand for it, we decided, okay, let's get a couple more flavors going, and let's up the production. So now we're doing 15 barrel batches of hard seltzer. And again, it's all made with RO water. It's made with dextrose. It's made with yeast nutrient, all the good things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfectly clean flavor. It's got just a slight bit of sweetness to it. And then we work with a company out of California. You might know them, Amaretti.
Oh, for the flavors?
Yep, they make all the different extracts and stuff like that. So what we do now is we make an unflavored version, put that into the kegs, and then we're treating it like the phosphate system. 1 pump for a pint, 2 pumps for a stein, 4 pumps for a growler.
Nice. Yeah, there's a brewery out here that's doing the exact same thing. They'll brew the clear one, and then whatever flavor you want, they'll make that flavor for you. Or if you want to go crazy and do a suicide, one of each, they'll do that for you too. They don't recommend it, but they will do it.
Yeah, I'm wondering how the mango habanero would taste with boysenberry.
Woo, that sounds dicey at best.
But yeah, so the water here, the nice thing having an RO system is I can actually go around the world, go to different breweries, get a water sample, get a recipe from them. And in theory, I should be able to 100% recreate their recipe here. And right now we're doing a couple collaborations. We're doing one with have you ever heard of Brown's Brewing Company?
I've heard of them, yeah.
I went to school in Troy. So when I was in college, it was called Brown Moran's. Then it was, I think, Uncle Sam's Brewing.
Very patriotic.
Yeah, well, Troy is the birthplace of Uncle Sam. So that's kind of the mantra there. And they're now, I guess, Brown and Moran got into a fight, and now it's just Brown's Brewing Company.
Okay.
I've been working with the brewers. They gave me the recipe for, they do a cherry raspberry amber.
Oh.
And it was one of those ones that, don't fruit the beer.
Right.
Well, they do it right where they actually ferment the fruit out. So you get the flavor of the fruit, but none of the sweetness.
Nice.
We're going to be making that sometime in the next month or two, and then doing a Skype session like we're doing today, except for it'll be video, and we'll have the 2 tap rooms linked together for the release.
Oh, that'll be really fun.
Yeah. Something a little different.
Yeah, and it's what you got to do these days. Can't get everybody in the same room anymore.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to join, they'll be able to join as well. So it'll be nice.
That's when. So you're gonna drop a link so everybody can hang out and watch with you guys.
Oh, absolutely.
So the nice thing then about being able to recreate all the different water profiles. I mean, you want to go to Germany and do a German beer. You want to go to San Diego and do a West Coast IPA. I mean, you can basically do whatever you want at that point.
As long as we can, make the right water profile.
Yeah.
It's like brewing something for the first time. You can go through and get it exact. So you think you have it exactly the way you want it. And even after you get done, you're like, I think we can tweak it a little bit. And we've actually done some recipes where people have given us recipes to brew. while they may be great for a homebrew system or great on a smaller system, with what we're doing, we have to scale them up, and we change the recipes a little bit, and we bring them in, and they try it. They try the wort as soon as it's made. They try the finished product. We're getting pretty good at actually being able to copy something if we needed to.
Nice. If you want to make a West Coast IPA, just get the dirtiest water you could find. That's all you need. Our water out here is horrendous.
One of the things you might have noticed is we're not a big IPA shop.
Saw that, yes.
We have made IPAs. We have one that we call the obligatory IPA. I actually brewed on Monday. We have a double IPA.
Nice.
And it's a old school English style double IPA. Okay. We put a little bit of peated barley in it that gives it that nice earthy flavor. So it tastes like homebrew, but it's not.
There's a brewery out in our direction. They're called Anagrin. We have them on the show all the time. They are a German brewery as well. They do amazing German beers, and they hate making IPAs. And they have their one because no matter what signs you have on the front door, people are going to walk into there and go, "Hey, what's your hoppiest beer?"
And that's that's the funniest thing. You get people coming in and you can't say anything because the customer is always right.
Exactly.
And we're trying to appease people. For us, we have an American Pale Ale, and we dry hop it, so you get a lot of the characteristics of an IPA, but it's not quite an IPA.
Right.
At least not my consideration.
So speaking of German beers, we have one more beer to try, this North Star.
My wife and I were talking, and I got to give her a lot of credit. Her and I were talking about this, and we wanted to make a beer. The whole thing with all the riots and the Black Lives Matter, a lot of breweries went out there and just said, yeah, we support Black Lives Matter, but then didn't do anything to actually back up the claim that they support it.
Right.
And we wanted to take a little bit of a different stance. And so I wanted to make a special beer. And again, I was reusing the yeast from the Red-Headed Stepchild. Well, I wanted to make a German alt. I haven't made one in a production scale. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of people come in here and they're like, our compliments to the brewer. They haven't had an alt beer in years, and they've tried it and they're like, yes, this is exactly the way it should taste. So when I want you actually decide for us here.
Okay, I'm pouring it right now.
Tastes like that. You're going to notice that it's a nice caramel color, totally clear. Mm-hmm. When you're going to smell it, you're going to smell the malt and the hops.
Yeah, that smells very sticky, sweet, malty with a little bit of hop on the finish of the nose there.
Yep. So it's going to be malt forward with a nice, long, bitter finish. I always tell people, think of an Oktoberfest that's met in English bitter.
That's exactly what that is. Yeah, it's got that extra bitter finish. When I say extra, not extra bitter, but like an English bitter finish. Sweet up front, and the bitterness helps clean it up, so you want more, and it's not just sticky in your mouth.
Exactly, and that's we actually brewed this beer in response to the Black Lives Matter. But what we're doing is we're actually donating $1 of every pint that's sold to an organization here in Lake County called Youth Build.
Okay,
and Youth Build, they're an organization that will take young adults, teenagers to young adults, and that have kind of gone off in a wayward direction, and they try to get them back on the right path.
Okay.
The guy who started the organization, he actually co-founded a book called North Star. And we were thinking of things that, how we get people back on the right direction, North Star, a compass, true north. What we did now is we created this beer as a kind of a fundraiser for them. And we think we're going to follow it up with another beer called True North.
Okay.
And continue this. The organization is great. The people are fantastic, and they're doing something that really matters. The funny thing is, I didn't even know this, but until we really delved into it, one of the other organizations, they have different ways that people can better themselves. And there's the Roberti Culinary Pathway, where they bring individuals in and they give them all the basic skills to be a cook or a chef. And so, they're teaching them chopping, sanitation, how to prepare food. And all the food that's prepared while they're going through the training is actually donated to different organizations like homeless shelters and things like that. This organization is actually one of the pathways that they can go down when an individual comes into Youth Build.
Okay.
And so we were already supporting that and being a part of that. They do a lot of different fundraisers and stuff, and we've donated beer to the fundraisers. And the guy who actually started that is a good friend of ours. and he has a food truck. He had a business here in town, but he continues to open up these different culinary schools all across the nation. It's such a fantastic program, and it's something that we can really get behind and help out and be a part of.
It's amazing, and even better that it's a local organization as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and it's a good beer that you're using to back that up, so that doesn't hurt either. And you're not canning this one, right?
We're not canning it. I put some in cans just for so you could try some.
Well, just from the beer itself, it's a fantastic beer. It's really good. Like we said before, malty, but not too sticky because that hop really kind of cleans it up at the end. What kind of hops did you use in this?
We used two different hops. We used Pearl and Hersbrucker.
Oh, okay.
So Pearl was in there for the 60 and 30 minute, and then Hersbrucker for the finishing.
Very nice. Well, it came out great. So my compliments to the Brewmeister.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I love the program. That's great. I know there's a lot of breweries which are doing the Black is Beautiful beer right now, which is phenomenal, but this is another great program. So good on you guys for giving back to the local community as well. It's very nice.
Thank you.
We'll start to wrap things up a little bit here. What is your inspiration or your process? How do you come up with new recipes?
A lot of it is our customers coming in and asking for different things. No, this one's not a customer. It's my wife.
Most important, though.
Yes, the most important. I grew up on a blueberry farm as a kid, and we were out in Boston. We used to live in Boston, and we used to go to Boston Beer Works all the time. It's right there across the street from Fenway, and they had a blueberry ale that they made. And she's like, I want you to recreate that. And she's like, it's one of those beers. It's very memorable. They would sit there. It was a Belgian golden ale and with a blueberry flavor. So it was still a nice pale straw color, but it had a nice blueberry flavor. And they would always put a scoopful of blueberries in it. And I just remember it was very mesmerizing, sitting there watching the blueberries. They collect on the CO2, float to the top. As soon as they hit the top, they'd sink back to the bottom again. And, just constantly going.
It's like a lava lamp.
It's kind of like a lava lamp, but you get to enjoy it a little bit more.
Right.
When people come to me, kind of like my wife did with this one, she's like, okay, I want you to make this. I will go through and I'll research a lot of different recipes, and then I'll sit there and I'll play around with it. And so this one, we made a 10-gallon batch of it yesterday, and it's going to be one of those ones we'll release in a couple of weeks in the tap room as part of our small batch program. But it's something that, I really wanted to, I kind of get very passionate about the beers that we make, and I want to make sure that anything we make is, first off, it's got to be drinkable, it's got to taste good, and it's got to get people to want to come back and have another.
Of course.
It's part of the business plan to be able to sell liquid. The other aspect is it's got to be something that people really remember. So when I go through and make one of these recipes, like even the Marvelous way back when, that is a recipe that I think I designed 16, 17 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I have not changed it since. Again, we go through 500 gallons of that every 2 weeks. Any of the beers that we make, a lot of it is, I'll sit there and I'll start chewing on the raw ingredients to figure out what it's going to taste like. And I'll kind of like take a combination of the malts. It's kind of an awkward way of doing it, but I'll go through and actually just crunch on things and see what it's going to taste like before I even brew it.
Yeah, it's nothing weird about that. What is a brewery pet peeve of yours?
Brewery pet peeve is getting everyone. So my manager and I, we're both anal about having everything clean, having everything spotless. And I guess my number one pet peeve is when people don't put things away. Take an extra 5 minutes to clean something. Either I'm looking at it or Josh is looking at it, and the two of us are like, nope, it's got to be clean. This is a brewery. It's not a restaurant. So we have to be 10 times cleaner than a restaurant.
Absolutely.
We've had customers come in here and they're like, Mike, this is the only place I come on a Saturday night, and the bathroom gets cleaner throughout the night.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
And what would you say is the new trend in beer?
The new trend in beer that I've seen and that I've talked to a lot of people about is going back to the traditional styles of beer. There was the big IPA craze, then adding everything you can do to an IPA, adding lactose, making milkshake IPAs, going with the grapes and making all those brewed IPAs. I think the IPA thing is coming not to an end, but I think it's going to be toned down a bit for the next few years.
Yeah.
And this is where you're going to see a true test with the brewers, because personally, I don't want to slam IPAs, but for me, it's a way of covering up imperfections in your beer.
Yeah.
And making the traditional styles of beer, that's where you got to be spot on. I mean, our 360 Pils, it's one of the hardest beers that we make. And I don't let anyone but myself make it because it's got to be spot on perfect. Just some of the processes that we follow, it's more about technique than the ingredients.
And it's the hardest one to make and the easiest one to drink.
You got it.
But if something's wrong with it right away.
We're checking it all the way through the process to make sure that it takes a month to make. Mm-hmm. We're always doing a nail biter because as we brew 15 barrels every month, and as soon as we take it out, and I'm literally not kidding you, we take it out and we have a new batch going in usually about 30 minutes later.
Wow.
We have just enough time to clean the tanks, rinse them, sanitize them, harvest the yeast, and it is, I'd say 30 to 60 minutes before the next batch is going back in.
Wow, that's a lot of pills turning.
It's a lot of pills turning, but if we don't do it, like I said, it's a nail biter. We're always worried that we're going to run out.
Right.
It does happen occasionally, and people are like, well, why don't you brew more? It's like, well, we want it to be as fresh as possible.
Right. Fresh beer is so much better. All right, so I've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
First answer that comes to mind, don't think about it too long. What is the first beer you ever drank?
Budweiser.
First beer you ever brewed?
A stout.
First beer that you brewed and sold?
Marvelous.
What's your favorite style to brew?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'd have to say the Pilsner.
Cans or bottles?
Cans.
And what's your favorite beer and food pairing?
Beer and pizza is usually right up there, but I have to say beer and steak.
That's a good one.
I love to grill on the weekends, and so I'll break out the Weber grill, make myself a perfect steak, medium rare.
Nice.
Have a nice beer while I'm making it, and another beer while I'm enjoying it.
Oh, yeah, it's not barbecuing if you're not drinking while doing it. It's Tuesday night. What are you drinking?
Marvelous.
What's your beercation destination?
Probably San Diego.
Nice. What's your favorite outside non-Buffalo Creek beer?
I have to say that probably Dovetail here in Chicago. They also make classic. The guy is Hagen Dose, and he makes fantastic German-style beers.
Nice.
I love to drink them.
What's your favorite non-beer hobby?
Downhill skiing.
Favorite guilty pleasure beer?
Occasionally I'll drink a Stella.
And your favorite word or slang for being drunk?
Hammered.
Classic. Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you guys, like we said, if you're in Illinois, 360 Historical Lane, Long Grove, Illinois, you can find them on the webs, buffalocreekbrewing.com, and on the social media at Buffalo Creek Brewing. Go over there, have a marvelous Kolsch. It's the one that I'm going to lobby that Mike starts distributing out west at this point. Let us know when that happens, please.
Absolutely. Plan is Iowa for next year.
We're going to have to go a little more west.
We're working our way. We'll get it up there.
Work your way on out. Mike, thanks so much for your time and for the fantastic beer.
Thank you very much, and really appreciate it. Cheers to you and for everything that you do with these podcasts.
A big thank you and a cheers one last time to Mike for being nice enough to get some of his beer over here in my hands, as well as to spend the time with me talking about his beer, his brewery, and some of his processes over there in Illinois. If you have any questions for him or anyone at the brewery, head over to buffalocreekbrewing.com or follow them at Buffalo Creek Brewing on the socials. Make sure you check them out if you're in that area. Find us at theunfilteredgentleman.com, at The Unfiltered Gentleman on the socials, except for Twitter at UnfilteredGents. And don't forget, you can drunk dial us, 805-538-BEER. It's 2337. Leave us a little voicemail. I hope everyone's staying very well hydrated out there. And on that note, good night, everybody.